When you're studying or creating learning content for others, do you just have a mechanism to review the material over and over again, like a book that gets read over and over again, or notes that get read over and over again in a hope that that'll help you learn the material? Well, it's much better to make the learning more active and more engaging. Welcome to Learning and Technology with Frank, where we look at how technology can help us learn and teach more effectively. In this video, we're going to look at active recall, what it is, how it works, and how to create learning content that takes advantage of its power. This video is also part of a series of videos on how understanding the research into how people learn can improve our learning content creation. This series is being sponsored by iSpring, and I'll be demonstrating how to use the iSpring suite to apply these theories when building training content a little bit later on in the video. So, what is active recall? Well, active recall is a learning strategy that's incredibly effective because what it does is it emphasizes actively stimulating memory during the learning process. Instead of just passively reading or listening to information, you'll use your memory to engage with the material by recalling facts and concepts and processes from memory. The challenge, of course, is that if you don't remember, you'll feel like you're failing, but you'll find that as you practice active recall more and more, you become better connected to the material you're trying to learn. Because rather than relying on notes or a review that you have, you pull from memory, which means that you're self-testing and you're memory building by pulling things from memory. It's highly effective because it reinforces the long-term memory retention and the understanding because it requires a deeper level of cognitive processing. Rather than just reading and absorbing, you're actually having to pull it from memory. It often involves things like self-testing or self-quizzing, where you'll generate answers from memory and then you'll develop the habit of being able to pull things from memory rather than just from notes. We've all had a situation where we've taken notes and then just absolutely forgot them. But by actually using active recall, we're going to be able to pull information from memory and learn that material on a deeper, more long-term basis. Now I'm going to show you how I can use the iSpring suite in order to create activities for learners that will have them using active recall as a way of reinforcing their learning. In order to encourage students to use active recall, I'm going to create something called an active recall sandwich. So whether part of a larger course or as a standalone activity, I'm going to use iSpring Suite in order to do this. So you can see here that I've gone into the iSpring Suite and I've gone into my slide templates and I've chosen a template that targets a smartphone. So they're going to be able to engage in an active recall here on their smartphone. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this. You'll notice that we're studying the Great Lakes. If you've seen some of the other videos in this series on research-based learning techniques, then you know we're studying the Great Lakes. You can like this video and subscribe to make sure you don't miss any videos, and check out the playlist, which I'll link down below so that you can see all of the videos in this series. So I'm going to go in over here and I'm going to create a new slide, just a new blank slide. It just grabs, I'll just go into the slide, select everything, Control All, and I'll just delete anything off the slide. I just want an absolute blank slide, and I'll make 2 more copies of that. So I'll just go in and copy the slide, and we'll paste it in, and we'll paste a 3rd one in. So there I've got 3 slides in there. This is going to form my sandwich. Now the first part of the sandwich is I'm going to encourage the students to think about what they already know about the Great Lakes. So I'm going to go into the iSpring Suite, and one thing that's very, very neat here is I can go into characters. So I'm going to have a character ask them, hey, what do you know about the Great Lakes? Engage in active recall. Tell me some of the things you know. And when it comes to characters in iSpring, I can go in and choose from a whole bunch of different characters, different ages, different ethnicities, different actions that they're engaged. There's a whole bunch that I can put in here. I'm going to choose Lewis. Lewis is kind of a casual guy here. Let's grab Lewis and insert Lewis into the slide here. If you don't already have Lewis downloaded, it'll prompt you to download it, or it will download it at that point. I'll just put Lewis here on the slide, and then I'm going to go into a simple insert. We'll put a text box in here. So let me grab my text box, and Lewis is just going to say something like, hey, what do you know about the Great Lakes? Hey, what do you know about the Great Lakes? I would put more in here. For example, I might have Lewis say, I heard you're studying the Great Lakes. The Great Lakes have always fascinated me. What can you tell me about the Great Lakes? So I'll just do, what do you know about the Great Lakes? So we'll keep it simple here. And of course, you can format this. You can make this really a nice slide that gets the student in the mood to tell you about the Great Lakes. And then what I'm going to do is on the second or the middle part of the sandwich here, I'm going to go into iSpring Suite, and I'm going to give the student an opportunity to fill in information of what they know about the Great Lakes. So I'm going to do a quiz, and underneath the quiz, I'm going to choose, so grab the quiz builder here, I'm going to choose to create a new little survey. I could reuse a quiz as well. So you might want to create one called a feedback or an essay or a reflection quiz that you can use over and over again. I'll just create a new one to show you how I did it. Underneath question here, you'll notice all sorts of different questions. I'm going to do an essay. So the self-reflection is, tell me about the Great Lakes. And notice I'm not really asking specific questions. I'm not asking a question, tell me about the depth of the Great Lake. I could gear it towards that. I could, focus what I want the active recall to be about. But in my case, I just want students to tell me anything they might know about the Great Lakes, and I'll put that in as my second slide. So now I've got Lewis coming in here and saying, hey, tell me about the Great Lakes. I've got a little essay that they're going to write, they don't have to write a full essay, but it gives them the opportunity to write about the Great Lakes. And one of the things that I think is really quite important is I want to go in and I want to give them the opportunity to review material about the Great Lakes. A lot of times when we do active recall, we kind of feel like we're failing because we're not going to have crystal clarity and be able to recall absolutely everything we've learned about a subject. So this is an opportunity for the student to do the active recall, but then to have reinforcement so that they can see what they did and did not recall successfully. Again, deepening the learning. A lot of times here, underneath an activity, it could be a more formal quiz, but a lot of times what I'll like to do is put in a role play. So in iSpring, I can have a little role play where I will then have a character, and in my case, I'm going to choose Lewis again. So I'm going to give them that familiar character of Lewis, and I'm going to create a role play using the Lewis character, and we're going to have a conversation now. So I'll go into the characters here. I don't see Lewis here. That's okay. I can grab him from the content library. When I go to the content library, it'll ask me to search. It'll show there I have a recently used Lewis. Lewis isn't looking too happy here, so let's make Lewis a little bit happier here. And then we'll go in. I could even put a background, maybe I have a background of the Great Lakes, but I'll just keep this pretty simple. And then I can create a scenario or a chained event where Lewis could say, hey, I heard the Lake Huron is the largest of the Great Lakes. And then the student could respond, yes, it is, or no, it isn't. Again, they've just done the active recall in the middle part, and now hopefully they will be able to get the correct answer. And if not, Lewis can, we could have some other character come in. You can build an entire scenario. Learning how to create this scenario, check out some other videos on the channel where I walk you through how to create a complete interaction here. So I'm going to keep this one really simple. Just here, I'll just put that in there and put it in. Obviously, I would want a more meaningful activity as my closing activity, but the sandwich here is, hey, what do you know about the Great Lakes? Active recall, write it down as a, onto the note or the essay here, and then, hey, let's review it together. And if you preview it, then you can see that this is targeted for the smartphone, and it just takes a few moments to build this preview. So here we are. So now when I publish this course, I can have students come in, they'll see the Great Lakes. We're going to do an active recall exercise. They go in, Lewis asks them, what do you know about the Great Lakes? They then get the opportunity to do the active recall. After they've done the active recall, they can submit that in there. Then they can go in and they can have a scenario where they work with Lewis to walk through the material to make sure that their active recall was both accurate as well as complete. Active recall is not the only research-based tool for learning though. Check out this video for another technique that helps us learn and teach more effectively.